Hi guys! So in the last episode, we talked about how to aggressively increase your earning potential. And to a lot of people, this sounds like something that's easier said than done, right? Because you have a business idea, it's time to execute, and then there are all these obstacles that come your way. We live in a part of the world where almost nothing works. In fact, I believe that as Nigerians, we've learned how to be resilient. There's something that's in our blood that forces us to be resilient because, listen, we wake up every morning and we eat problems for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Just through sheer will, we've created whole industries with little infrastructure and no government support in beauty, event planning, tech. So we're resilient. We have to be resilient. So today, I'm going to be talking about how to overcome your obstacles when you have a life or business problem. And I'll be doing this by illustrating through my own experience, self-publishing a book in Nigeria, a personal finance book. So the problem for me was I was on this path, writing this book. It took me a year and a half to write and produce and all of that. And every time I told my friends and family about it, they were mostly supportive, but I kept hearing, a book can never be commercially successful in Nigeria. So I'm very social impact driven. So it's important for whatever I do to have an impact. However, I'm a capitalist at heart. So baby girl is not going to spend a year and a half writing a book and not make money. Does not make any sense. So I started thinking, okay, why are they saying this? So I could easily have said, you know what, they're haters. What do they know? Like, it's going to be commercially successful. Instead, I deconstructed the problem. Now, let me explain. You have to break it down into bite-sized chunks. So my tip of the day is reverse engineer the problem that you're trying to solve, and by basically deconstructing it and asking yourself why. Let me explain. So people said a personal finance book was not going to be commercially successful. When I asked why, the first answer that I was getting was Nigerians don't read. If you remove all the noise, what they're actually saying is there a market potential for this product or service that you're putting out there, right? So, okay, I was interested in finding out, why don't Nigerians read? Especially a finance book is boring. So first of all, instead of going with the concept that lots of people had advised me to go with, which was take all your articles, put it inside one document, and basically that makes it a book. I wanted to do something a little bit more interesting. So I created a fictional story. So The Smart Money Woman is about 5 Nigerian girls and their personal finance journeys. I wanted it to be so interesting that people will talk about it the way they talk about Real Housewives of Atlanta and Love and Hip Hop, the things that, like they watch on TV, right? But it had smart money lessons and exercises at the end of each chapter. So what I had done was created something that was more interesting so people didn't see it as boring. Second of all, again, to test out whether there was market potential for this product, I needed proof of concept, right? So I had these smart money lessons I wanted to put in the book. Let me find out if they actually work on helping to improve people's personal finances. So I came up with this thing, a digital financial challenge called the Smart Money 30-Day Challenge. I launched it on Instagram. So I was basically sending one financial task to your inbox every day. For people who signed up for it, they would get one financial task every day in their inbox and work through it. And once a week, I would have a live telecasting where people could log in, and I would answer the frequently asked questions that I'd gotten by email that week, and people could also send me messages on Twitter, Instagram, that kind of thing. So now what that did was it helped 3,000 people signed up. So what that did was it helped me realize that there was actually a market for the product that I was selling, and it helps me see the pain points of that audience that I hadn't covered in the book yet. So doing that little test case helps me make the book better and also prove the fact that there was a market for what I was trying to sell. Okay, so that's market potential. 2 was another thing people said. People said, okay, so where are you going to sell these books? How many bookstores do we have in Nigeria? Besides, we don't even have a culture of people going into bookstores and buying coffee and reading. We just don't have that. We have small bookstores. So again, if you remove the noise, what they're actually talking about is the distribution problem that that does not allow you to scale, right? So abroad, you have nationwide bookstores like Barnes and Noble, Waterstones, that have lots of distribution outlets around the country and allow you to sell thousands of books and all of that. And we don't have that here. So I had to think about how I was going to go through I had to think about how I was going to circumvent that problem and get creative about how I was solving it. So yes, we had the modern options like Amazon. I could sell the ebook on Amazon, so I would reach people in diaspora. I could sell it from my website and deliver it to people. But people still needed to have it in places where it was available, it was easily available. So I started to think, okay, my target audience is young African millennial women. Where would they go anyway to buy anything? So they'll go to House of Tara to buy their makeup. I leverage on House of Tara's distribution network. They have over 20 stores around the country. They'll go to Health Plus to buy cosmetics and drugs. Health Plus has over 30 stores around the country as well. I leverage on that distribution channel. I sold it in places like Ebano. So putting the e-commerce factors together and getting creative about the way I was solving the distribution problem helped me to scale, right? So the third thing was, you want to produce a book in Nigeria. How? I got a lot of advice saying that Nigerians don't spend more than 1,000 naira, 1,500 naira on books. It's just not something that they do, right? So because of that, you're forced to print really cheaply. So you want to bring out a product that is as cheap as possible. But again, I had made up my mind that if I was going to write a book, I wanted it to be something that if you walked into Waterstones or Barnes and Nobles, it wouldn't look out of place there, right? So it had to look a certain way. And people told me that, okay, the quality I was even looking for, I couldn't find it in Nigeria. And the book is made in Nigeria. You know what I did? I sat down with my printer, Mr. Lekon. We looked at other books that I thought were great, like internationally. And he went away and, made a prototype or several prototypes for me so that I knew that it was something that he could do. People don't typically do hardcover in Nigeria. So we basically just had to figure it out. We sat down, picked the paper. In Nigeria, most books in Nigeria are usually white paper. I wanted it to be cream or like off-white or whatever, and that was a bit more expensive. So all of that. I was like, I want an international standard book. But guys, guess what? Remember, I said I did not have any money. So all the shakara that I was doing, on top that I did not have money, I had to now get creative about solving that problem as well. So typically with printing anywhere, you have to leverage on economies of scale. So you want a situation where you print as many books as possible, say let's say 10,000 books at a time. So it drives down the unit cost of production, right? So you're printing for cheaper. But I didn't have the liquidity to do that. So what did I do? At that point, I had already built some goodwill with Mr. Lekon. So he had printed a lot of other stuff for me before, like in the past. And I now sat with him and I said, listen, give me this book for the cost of the cost you would have given me if it was for 5,000 books, right? If you're printing 5,000 books at a time. But let's print 1,000 books every week, right? And I will pay you at the end of 30 days. Well, he agreed. I put a deposit down and he agreed to that arrangement. So what had I done? With little or no money, I'd created supplier credits that enabled me to print the book and negotiated a lower cost, right? And he knew that every 30 days he would get his money back. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is, again, people said, please, I beg, no one is going to really be that interested in a finance book. People are more interested in entertainment and, like fiction and just fun stuff. Like finance isn't interesting. So the big thing was, how was I going to market it in a way that would get people interested in wanting to buy this book? Because like I say all the time, one of the biggest tips I've learned is your marketing has to be just as good as your mastery, because you can be the best dog walker in the world, but if nobody knows about it, no one's going to buy your product. So I looked at the current model that people had, which was if you print it, if you write a book, you have a big book launch, you invite a lot of big men, and they launch the book for you by, you know, saying, okay, I will launch the book for 1 million naira, 5 million naira, and people give checks and all of that. Now, I did a little bit of research, and I found that, especially in a recession, it might be difficult to get people to be that generous, right? 1. 2, sometimes those checks they're not forthcoming. So I started thinking, when I looked at the cost of creating an event or doing a launch event, how will this impact my bottom line? I wasn't willing to take the risk of that. So I had to disrupt the business model. And I thought, do you know what? Instead of doing it, I'm just going to launch it on social media, because I'd spent quite some time, or a few years, cultivating an audience that was ready for this book, that was primed for this book. So I launched it on social media. There was this buzz about it, and people, you know, found the characters relatable. People found the tips helpful, and they were talking to their friends about it, their sisters about it, and there were all these like unsolicited reviews online about it. So there was like a knock-on effect that created this huge buzz that I could have never, ever predicted. I'm so thankful to God for it. Now, I decided I wanted to go on a book tour instead. Okay, it sounded crazy at first, because when I spoke to a PR company, the cost was going to be insane. And again, I think that not having forces you to get creative about the way that you think about something. When you're in a space of lack, it depends on your perspective. My perspective was, okay, so how do I make sure that each tour is profitable? Now, each tour stop was different. I had to leverage on sponsorship, on partnerships. Every city that I went to, I made sure that I was partnering with people who had a pool, who could bring at least 50 to 150 women with each event. We would assess the situation. Maybe in Abuja, I know I've already sold lots of books. So if I did an event, I had to get people to buy tickets to attend it. And then, you know, so between book sales, sponsorship, partnerships, lots of other brands saying, you know what, we'll give you food for free, we'll do cocktails for free, we'll do, like in Manchester and London, like this was my experience, getting sponsorship and partnerships, and then making sure that there were enough people there to sell books to. And you know, another magical thing that happened, the knock-on effect of the pictures from the book tour being on Bella Niger, The Guardian, and all these different platforms, and my Instagram, my social media pages, meant that A, people were super excited to come to each, you know, tour stop that was announced, and B, it helped with sales just worldwide. Like, it increased sales in other places. So people would see these pictures and they'll get excited about go and buy the book to find out what this buzz is about. So I hope that you found this helpful. If you have an obstacle and you're trying to overcome it, break it down into smaller tasks, into smaller problems, and figure out the why of each problem, and find a creative way to go about it. So I look forward to hearing your experiences with overcoming obstacles. Share your tips, share your stories. Let me know if this worked, if this was helpful for you. Bye.